everyone. I am Naya Posotidou. I'm the Global IT Systems Administrator at Cloudflare. I've been working at Cloudflare for 5.5 years, and I manage everything that has to do with Jamf, Apple, asset management. I'm going to talk about endpoint security at Cloudflare. It's my first time public speaking, so be patient. The agenda consists of the following items. I'm going to talk about some facts about Cloudflare and Cloudflare IT, why security is important to us, the journey that Cloudflare IT did to achieve endpoint security, how we secured our fleet, some things about compliance and how we work with auditors, and the lessons that we learned. So here are some facts about Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is a global cloud platform designed to make everything that connects to the internet private, secure, fast, and reliable. We are helping to build a better internet. We are one of the world's largest networks. Today, businesses, nonprofits, bloggers, and anyone with an internet presence uses Cloudflare to secure their websites and apps. We are using Cloudflare to secure Cloudflare. We use our own product, so that means we dog food, and IT has a chance to test and also provide feedback to the engineering and product teams. Our technological controls are based in zero trust best practices. We have a global presence. We're more than 4,000 people distributed around the world. We have offices in EMEA, APAC, and North America. Our tech stack consists of Jamf Pro to manage Mac devices, Intune to manage Windows. We use Ansible to push configurations to our Linux devices. We use CrowdStrike Falcon for EDR, OS Query for vulnerability management, and Okta is our IDP. Employees select their laptop of choice. We believe that everyone should have the opportunity to showcase their best talent on a device that they're most comfortable with. So we offer Macs, Windows, and Linux. Our fleet consists of 75% of Macs, 90% of Windows, and 6% of Linux. But why security is important to us? Cybersecurity is a fundamental aspect of Cloudflare's operations, essential for protecting customer data, mitigating cyber threats, maintaining service availability, preserving customer trust, and complying with regulatory requirements. By investing in cybersecurity, we strengthen our position as a leading provider of internet security and performance solutions, offering peace of mind to our customers and partners. We're protecting customer data. We process and store a vast amount of customer data, including sensitive information such as website traffic, user credentials, and application data. Ensuring robust cybersecurity measures is essential to safeguard this data against unauthorized access, theft, or exploitation. We mitigate cyber threats. We operate a global network infrastructure that serves as a gateway between the clients and the internet. This infrastructure is constantly exposed to various cyber threats, including DDoS attacks, malware, and data breaches. Robust cybersecurity measures are necessary to detect, mitigate, and prevent these threats from impacting our services and customers. We maintain service availability. We provide essential services such as content delivery, DDoS protection, and security solutions to millions of websites and online applications worldwide. Any security breach or disruption to our services could have widespread implications leading to downtime, data loss, and financial losses for our customers. Therefore, maintaining high levels of cybersecurity is crucial to ensure the availability and reliability of our services. We preserve customer trust. Our customers rely on the company to protect their digital assets, maintain data privacy, and uphold regulatory compliance requirements. Any security incident or breach involving our services could erode customer trust and damage the company's reputation. By prioritizing cybersecurity, we demonstrate our commitment to protect customer data and maintain the trust of its user base. And finally, compliance requirements. We operate in a highly regulated environment with stringent cybersecurity and data protection regulations imposed by various jurisdictions worldwide. Compliance with these regulations, such as GDPR or CCPA, requires implementing robust cybersecurity measures to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of customer data processed and stored by Cloudflare. But how do we secure Cloudflare? We use a number of measures, such as company-wide acceptable use policy, employee privacy notices, tailored by jurisdiction, required security and privacy training, role-based access controls, and the least privilege principles. We secure access to applications. We secure access to self-hosted and SaaS applications for our workforce, whether remote or in office, using our own tools. We use Zero Trust Network Access, Cloudflare Access to verify identity, enforce multi-factor authentication with security keys, and evaluate device posture using Zero Trust Client for every request. We defend against cyber threats. We leverage Cloudflare's Magic Wand to secure our office networks, and Cloudflare Zero Trust Agent to secure our workforce. We use both of these technologies as an on-ramp to our own secure web gateway to secure our workforce from arising online threats. We protect inboxes with Cloud Email Security. We have deployed our own Cloud Email Security solution to protect workforce from increased phishing and business email compromise attacks. One key feature that we use is email link isolation, which uses remote browser isolation and email security functionality to open potentially suspicious links in an isolated browser. This allows us to be slightly more relaxed with blocking suspicious links without compromising security. We respect privacy. Our employee privacy policies and our acceptable use policy provide broad notice to our employees about what happens to their data when they use company systems. We also describe the privacy choices available to our employees. This is particularly important for the bring your own device employees that opt to use their own personal mobile device to access Cloudflare systems. They must enroll to endpoint management and use Cloudflare Zero Trust Client on their device if they want to access our systems. We encourage privacy first, security for all. We believe firmly that great security is critical for ensuring data privacy, and that privacy and security can coexist harmoniously. We also know that it is possible to secure a corporate network in a way that respects the employees that use those systems. But what has Cloudflare IT done to achieve this? Cloudflare IT has grown a lot in the past 6 years. Let me walk you through the endpoint security journey of Cloudflare. I'll be focusing on laptop deployment, securing Cloudflare's Mac fleet, working with security benchmarks, and the lessons that we learned. So this is a timeline. It's before 2018, 2019, the COVID years, and 2023 and beyond. 2018 and before, it was the life before endpoint management or end management. We were using Google as our user directory. We had no single sign-on. Users could get the laptop of choice and even have a second laptop. We didn't know. We had plenty of shadow IT. New hires would fly to our San Francisco office to attend their new hire orientation, get a laptop, go through the IT onboarding. With no SSO, that was a nightmare. Our asset inventory was a Google spreadsheet. Users could install whatever software they wanted. We had no visibility to know what's installed on which laptop. We had every possible version of macOS. Similar, we had no patching or vulnerability monitoring. Sophos was a manual installation distributed by Google Drive during the orientation. Licensed application keys were distributed via a secure node with our password manager. We had some security controls like encryption and firewall, but we didn't have a way to enforce them. But things started changing. So in 2018, we started reaching out to vendors for finally getting an MDM and ITP solution. We got our asset management database. In November 2018, we rolled our first security keys at Cloudflare's last company retreat. In December, we decided that we're going to use Jamf Pro for managing our Macs, Intune to manage our Windows devices, and Okta to use for SSO. And that's when the fun began. We jump-started our Jamf Pro. We set up our Jamf Pro environment and added configurations in our base applications. We configured Apple Business Manager and finally had zero-touch deployment. We used DP Notify for all newly enrolled Macs. We rolled out Okta at the same time, and we started adding applications behind it. We started discussing with the security team on defining our endpoint strategy. We worked on security policies and configurations. We staged Jump Pro rollout per region, and we use a combination of user-initiated enrollment and automated enrollment. But what do you do about late adopters? How do you force all your Mac users to enroll? How about creating a certificate in Jump and distributing it only via Jump to connect to the office Wi-Fi? Started utilizing smart groups and configuration profiles in Jump for compliance purposes to enforce settings such as file vault and gatekeeper. We were heavily utilizing Okta LDAP groups for licensed applications such as VMware Fusion and Office 365. We used policies to distribute licensed software without handing the keys to our users. Users could log into self-service to install applications that were assigned to them in Okta. We moved away from Sophos and started using Carbon Black. We also asked employees to volunteer and become pilot users, so we have a way to test our policies. We went through our first audits with MDM and IDP in place, which completed successfully. Our asset management database grew significantly because we started adding integrations with Jump Pro, Intune, Okta, Google, and our finance systems. We now had a way to know its devices, warranty details, and its end of life. This helped us to work on retiring super old equipment. So during the COVID years, in 2020, our new hires were still flying to San Francisco till about mid-February. The new hire classes were about 50 people every 2 weeks. When COVID-19 hit and everyone went remote, the hiring didn't stop. The new hire orientation became virtual. We had the tools in place, such as DP Notify, and it was a great tool to guide the new hires through setting up their Mac. But with more and more people onboarded and selecting a Mac, we started scaling up our Jump Pro instance. We started quarterly reviewing our configurations and policies, updating reference points and documentations in our knowledge base. We started using change requests and version control for anything, script or configuration that was added in Jump. It was the year of the Apple Silicon. We started testing our configurations on M1 and slowly rolling it out to all pilot users. We're now dogfooding our Zero Trust products, Cloudflare Warp, and with dogfooding, we helped to fix bugs before they reached our customers. Our asset database grew, and we added more integrations from our procurement system, so we used it for stock projections and also for reporting. In February 2021, we started using our security keys as the only MFA. This change brought many changes in our Jump Pro. As we were heavily relying on LDAP groups, that meant that we had to scrap that in one night and start using SADE groups for this purpose. Security keys with FIDO2 weren't supported in Jump self-service. Along with MFA change to only support security keys, we got rid of VPN. We were using Cloudflare Access, so all of our applications got behind Cloudflare Access to verify and enforce MFA, verify device posture through access policies. We also listened feedback from our users, and we introduced Nudge for macOS patching and faster adoption. We rolled out FleetDM Noise Query. Now all of our platforms are Noise Query monitoring for vulnerabilities. In 2022, our Linux endpoint management system gets in place. So did the need for review of configurations across all platforms. What are the security baselines that we have in place and are implemented, such as encryption, firewall, etc.? As we met regularly with internal and external auditors, we started automating reporting for common requests, such as patching and EDR. Cloudflare is now certified for FedRAMP Moderate. And finally, last year and now, following the Zero Trust practices, Best practices, security keys, Cloudflare Zero Trust, Cloudflare Access, and network access. We work on device posture checks, issuing device certificates to trusted devices so that only trusted devices can access Cloudflare resources. Working on the macOS security compliance project and work on security baselines to harden our security policy on endpoints and leverage OS queries vulnerability reporting. But how did we secure and continue to secure our fleet? So most frameworks provide guidelines. Each company can implement the ones that are required for the environment. Even before having an MDM that could manage any configurations, Cloudflare laptops were following certain security standards. All the laptops were encrypted, recovery keys were shared with IT, and firewall was enabled. However, with MDM in place, everything was much easier. We were able to enforce security settings on macOS devices when we were configuring JumpPro in early 2019. We're working with certain frameworks in mind, like CIS benchmarks. In Cloudflare's case, we chose settings from the CIS recommendations that wouldn't greatly affect our users' experience. Users were already enrolling their devices in Jamf and going through setting up their accounts in Okta. Expectations and instructions were communicated to the whole company during our weekly all-hands meeting. Reach out to vendors that can help you succeed with your journey to secure your fleet. We agreed with our vendors that all of our existing and new Apple devices should be added in Apple Business Manager. Utilizing Jamf's pre-stage enrollment allow us to make the MDM profile mandatory and not allow its removal. We use JumpPro's configuration profiles to enforce gatekeeper, firewall, and encryption. Also store the recovery keys in Jamf. These settings were new to the users, but this time they wouldn't be able to alter them. Communication is key. There are times that we have to restrict applications, especially when our security team is reviewing vulnerabilities and providing us a list to restrict. Communicating with the users is vital, informing them and explaining the reasoning behind that. For example, we restrict the use of AirDrop on our devices, follow based on the CIS benchmark. This is an action that required approval from different departments, IT and security to action it, legal to adjust the end user policy, and then IT to communicate that to the users because it affects their user experience. Another example is that we restrict the option, the use of Logi Option Plus that allows you to control multiple computers and OSs. We restrict it because it allows file and clipboard sharing between computers. Users that were using this application weren't happy, but they understand the reasoning. We use computer extension attributes to get reporting of the state, for example, of the Falcon agent that we use, if it's connected or not. And then utilizing this field with computer smart groups, we're able to identify which Macs, on which Macs Falcon is not connected, as it should, and remediate it by either reinstalling Falcon and troubleshooting and checking the progress. And if this fails, alert the security team. Computer smart groups also let us check like common CIS items, such as system integrity protection, and verify our findings with OS query. Remote and hybrid were becoming the new normal, and we reviewed our security settings with our security team and came to the conclusion to reduce the screen lockout time from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. To avoid any accidents, since most of the employees tend to leave their laptops unattended while at home. For this, we edited the configuration profile we were already using in JumpPro and staged its rollout after informing the users of this change. Similar to that, replacing our EDR agent for Cover Black to Falcon during the pandemic required a lot of planning. All relevant policies, configuration profiles, and like anything for network filtering, system extensions, etc., were created. We followed the process of stage rolled out. We monitored the installation, and we reached out to security to resolve any issues. Replacing EDR wasn't easy, but especially for the security team, but when teams work together and share the load, always leads to success. Sometimes you have to assume the worst. Treat everything with zero trust, investigate and respond to all password changes, especially MFA changes. Pay attention to support, initiated events. Make sure that all your password resets are valid and all sessions have proper authentication associated with it. And finally, don't be afraid to nudge. We reviewed our OS patching and moving from notifications and policies and software update that might or might not work, we introduced nudge. Listening to our users' feedback, we adjusted nudge settings, worked on the wording, and we succeeded. We have late adopters, but it's a lot easier to handle. Similarly, with application patching, we use Jamf Pro's patch management and scripts in a combination. But more importantly, we communicate regularly with our users. We let them know the changes and what needs to be done, and we're giving them ample time to update and upgrade. So keeping the company's fleet secure isn't something that, as an admin, you set up the first day or the second day, or you go through a list and you tick boxes on the way. It requires reviewing settings, testing, collecting feedback, and discussing with different teams. Apple is changing settings, like remember background and login items. Baseline benchmarks are to be followed if they're required or applying to your company. More importantly, you need to keep your fleet secure and robust. So the fleet is secure, but how do you work with auditors? Cloudflare holds various certifications, such as SOC 2 Type 2, FedRAMP Moderate, C5 2020, which means that IT works with internal and external auditors and meets regularly a couple of times a year. The controls that we go through are similar almost every time. We talk about encryption, about antivirus or EDR, about gatekeeper, patching, etc. What we worked on was to create a dashboard so that our internal auditors can go anytime and see our configurations and download reports and save time for us, the IT team. So we created a wiki. We added the configurations from all three platforms, from macOS, Windows, and Linux. How these configurations are set, like we used screenshots from configuration profiles, the payloads that are used, and which control the cover. We included links to how they can get the reports. We also utilized our asset management platform. We have built integrations with asset management, with Jamf Pro, Google, Intune, CrowdStrike, Okta, etc. So we could sync data from these platforms. But we were already syncing data from these platforms, but we could sync more data. So we started pulling information such as third-party applications, latest versions such as Google Chrome, or the system integrity protection status for Macs. We use this data to create reports that can be downloaded from our internal auditors and who already have access in the asset management platform. With the reports, we started building dashboards, showcasing progress, and security configuration adoption. Now, different teams can get the information they want, but for specific evidence on devices, it still requires IT magic hands. Looking to the previously mentioned points, we're working with the security and the governance, risk, and compliance team to review our security controls based on macOS Security Compliance Project. Utilizing tools such as OS Query, which provides supported queries related to CH benchmarks, has been able to see the reach across all platforms, which is terrific. The journey to achieve endpoint security never ends. So IT has grown a lot in the past couple of years, and these are some valuable lessons that we learned. Set a plan on what you want to achieve and a timeline. Maybe you're working towards an audit, or you just want to harden your security posture of your fleet. Make a plan, research your options, and work towards it. Make sure you pull the right resources to help you on this journey. More importantly, communicate and ask for feedback. No one should work on a silo mode. Communicate your plans to your team, your extended team, your collaborators, vendors, and ask for their feedback. You might need to involve a different department, for example, legal, if you're making a change that changes the policy. Inform your users. You don't want to push out a change that on a Friday to surprise them. Document, review, and adapt. Document your progress. Make sure you're following the correct process to implement and roll out your changes. Stage it or not, and release it to your fleet. Review your changes and change or roll back if it's required. But don't forget to document your findings and experience. Don't be afraid to make changes. Base your changes, adaptations on feedback that you received. Maybe it's the user experience. But if a change needs to happen to make the fleet more secure or robust, there's no question to it. And finally, reach out to the community. Mac admins have a great community. Join the Slack channel, listen to the podcast, ask questions, and contribute. Thank you.
Any questions?
With the timeline, what was the sort of size of the company from when it was small and fairly ad hoc?
Okay.
Going to the secure.
So I joined Cloudflare in September 2018. We were about 700 people. If I remember correctly, when we rolled out Jump in February 2019, because I set up Jump and everything, we started with 800 devices, so we were already growing. But yeah, now we have more than 3,000 Macs.
Okay.
Hi there. It was good to hear you talk about compliance and NIST and CIS, which is something I had to work with recently. I take it as CIS level 1 and not 2 you're doing. I was just wondering how you went about putting that together. Were you using the Jamf compliance tool to generate anything, or were you doing it kind of from scratch? And also, are you using a platform to then test against that in terms of compliance, like CrowdStrike or something else, for making sure that everything is actually compliant with your configurations?
Right, so when we implemented Jump, when we rolled out Jump in 2019, everything was from scratch. It was IT talking with security and policy teams to define what sort of controls we wanted to implement. Basically going through the first benchmarks like encryption, firewall, and so on. But then as the team grew and we went remote and people travel and so on, we had to implement harder controls. So again, I think it's a collaborative decision that needs to be made. It's not just IT deciding, no, I want firewall on stealth mode. I'm not going to allow any connections, etc. So it's a more collaborative on what's decided. We use CrowdStrike to detect score, but more importantly, we use our zero trust products to check on device posture, check IP addresses, and so on.
What was politically the most difficult part of the transition through your security posture?
Sorry, could you ask again?
Sorry. What was the most politically difficult part of the security posture changes that you made? What was the hardest thing to sell to your user base?
I think it's not a lie. If you work with a lot of engineers, you have a lot of screaming at the back. So anything that has to do with management and controlling in some way, like what they can do or cannot do. That's difficult, but yeah, like trying to find, I don't know, a common ground when it comes to these things. For example, have like break class options in case something goes wrong, and have different tools that, you know, we can monitor and detect like vulnerabilities and what happens. I don't know if that covers your question.
Partly, yes, don't worry.
Okay.
I'll pick your brains later.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.